Other than a mission to Mars, it's hard to imagine a project more complex and more carefully planned using long-standing project management methods and tools than designing a new airliner. It's about as far from an agile software development project as one can get. Nevertheless, there's much to be learned from Boeing's seemingly endless problems with the 737 MAX. It is likely that Boeing's problems will be traced back to a change in Boeing's culture, not to a manufacturing process. At some point, after Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas, an aircraft company that was in decline, Boeing's culture changed from one that was centered around aerospace engineering to one where senior management was more financially oriented than engineering oriented. That by itself isn't a poison to company culture. After all, senior management's role is to allocate company resources effectively. However, it turns out that making and selling passenger aircraft isn't a business where meeting regulatory requirements and having good processes on paper is sufficient to make safe products. The company Spirit Aerosystems, that makes 737 MAX fuselages, was once part of Boeing. It was spun off to cut costs. Boeing moved their headquarters away from their engineering center. Boeing treated its engineers as replaceable parts, not as valuable talent. Boeing outsourced software development to low bidders offshore. They thought that if they had enough process to check this software for correctness, that would be sufficient. Instead, it turns out that busting unions, laying off expensive senior engineers, treating software like a commodity, and making your core competency cost optimization is not the way to make good airplanes. The software business is young enough and fluid enough that if you try to run a software business that way, you'll be out of business soon enough. Software is easy enough to replace, unlike airliners. If Microsoft or Apple or Facebook or Google had a similar culture shift, their users would leave without much difficulty. If you are an airline operating Boeing aircraft, change is much less doable. So when an aircraft company like Boeing screws up its culture, it becomes everyone's problem. I like to end these lessons, these parables, these stories, on an optimistic note, but I really don't see how, once a company like Boeing has ruined its culture, it can heal itself. It isn't just the C-suite. There's a whole hierarchy of management that lacks respect for the task of engineering innovative, up-to-date, safe, high-quality, reassuring aircraft put together by people who care deeply about safety that people want to fly in. Swapping out the CEO didn't help. Short of forcing a sale of Boeing to another aerospace company that would replace Boeing's management, I'm at a loss for concrete steps to take.